like NFT whitelists and liquidations, starting to pref users that exhibit this good behavior. And I think it's like a virtuous cycle that goes on and on.
I find that really interesting. But how does that relate to the fungible labor markets, or is that just a separate idea?
Oh, so for example, like you can apply this idea to like the fungible labor markets as well. So if you're taking a more, shall we say, like if Ethereum wins, we all win type of outlook, or if like Luna wins, we all win type of outlook, then in that case, you can start to give out preferable loan terms to people that exhibit this positive, good citizen behavior on chain, right? Like if you don't care about that, then if you don't believe that your ability to pay a loan has anything to do with you being a good citizen, that's fine too. But you can still look at on-chain behavior of how you are spending the capital that you borrow, right? So for example, if you're taking out a loan to go giga long on Luna, then probably your loan to value ratio should be lower, right? So if you're borrowing money against your future time and you're giga longing, well, Luna is like one thing. If you're giga longing on like Dogecoin, then your LTV should definitely be lower than somebody that takes that loan and then uses it to, like buy something interesting.
Huh. Okay. And I'm sure you've seen on Twitter in recent days that there's just a lot of chatter about what dev salary should be, especially for people working on the core protocol at these different layer ones. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think this fungible labor market idea could affect that?
So I think traditionally, if you look at the best HR practices, well, of course, I'm not an expert here, but the way that I think about it is the expected utility output of a very strong individual contributor for a very successful company protocol is generally the same or higher than somebody that takes on a lot of risks and jumps to building their own thing. That's how you incentivize best talent to stay like in your protocol or in your DAO or in your company, as versus like striking out and doing their own thing, right? And the way that you do this doesn't mean necessarily that you need to pay more than somebody that raises like a Series B for a startup. But it's the idea that from a risk-adjusted return perspective, like you actually don't need money after some threshold, right? So you definitely don't want to underpay people. But at the same time, like if you pay them top dollar, then it doesn't actually matter to them like whether to make a little bit more money after that, right? So I think returns from an absolute basis should correspond to the amount of risk that people are taking. But at the same time, like I think you need to be cognizant that if you're paying above market, then usually people don't care.
Right. But then, so you feel like this fungible labor market would make things more efficient, or like, how do you think that would affect how much devs are being paid?
I think it would make pay more cyclical, which means that during a time when there is a lot of demand to build various things for DAOs, I can see developer salaries going up to something ridiculous, right? So the types of things that you see in sort of traditional employment markets, like wage stickiness, that doesn't apply anymore, because DAOs would just be on like a buying spree for the very best top talent, and there wouldn't be any sort of institutions or structures that prevents wage stickiness from forming, right? So you would be able to see some people getting paid like $5 million, like $10 million, because they have what it takes. So for example, if you were trying to hire Bonteg, for instance, from Yearn Finance, and let's say that this market existed in 2021 or 2020, then in that case, I think his salary would have been like above that for sure. But you would also be able to see, demand for time tokens going down if in a specific sector, there's more people that are willing to supply the same unit of labor.
Right. But right now in crypto, yeah, definitely that's not the case. I feel like there's a lot more demand. We're definitely far off from that day. So I don't know, is there any more that you wanted to add about these thoughts that you're having and building the fungible labor market? Like, are you actively trying to build something like that right now? Or is this just something you've been kind of noodling on in your head?
I actually have the guy that's working on it staying with me right now. He's like behind this wall, but it's a project called Kronos Finance. And he actually used to be like a founding member at TFL. Used to be our head of research, but like, we put together a seed fund recently, and he's built a team out here, and we're chipping at it pretty frequently.
Huh, interesting. Okay. So maybe we'll start to see more freelance devs who are paid via some tokenized marketplace. So I don't know if you have other apps that you want to talk about, but I did actually want to ask you on about Thorchain, kind of where you saw that in the broader ecosystem and, kind of why Luna's integrating with that and like where you think that would go.
So I think the market that Thorchain is tapping into is absolutely massive. And it's one of those things that really do need to exist in the crypto space. And the reason for this is, even today, like if you wanted to trade Bitcoin, the only real way to do it is to go through centralized intermediaries, right? So if you're not comfortable with Bitco custodianship of your Bitcoin, then there isn't really a way to trade any of this on chain. But the thing is, if you have a decentralized exchange that are credibly cross-chain, right, bridges to all the major protocols, and then you can trade Bitcoin and all the other UTXO assets in a credible way with low slippage, then it becomes massively exciting, right? Then in that case, it sort of takes the business model of most of the major centralized spot exchanges. The issue, I feel like, is it's very difficult to compete on a cost basis in terms of slippage and trading fees on what centralized exchanges are willing to offer. And number two, I think the market is definitely very excited, but it's a little bit cautious given some of the the security issues that have happened to Thorchain last year. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time to build that trust back. But once they do, I think Thorchain is going to be like one of the most important institutions in crypto.